I'm just really appreciate your kind words. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the recording now because there's someone from Townsville who sent me an email who'd registered and just can't make it, and there's someone from the ACT, others from Sydney and other places. So what I'm going to do, for those that aren't here who obviously couldn't make it, I'm going to record it and send the link to them. So welcome again. Thanks for taking that opportunity. It's the advantage of a smaller group. As I said, we can be a little bit more interactive, and there will be lots of space for question at the end. But for the benefit, most of you here will know something of me, but for the benefit of those who are listening to the recording, just a little bit of background information on me. I have been in the coaching space since 2010. Began and trained in 2010, and since that time, I've had the opportunity to coach in a variety of settings. I've had the privilege of working in the life coaching space, coaching long-term unemployed, and for 5 years I had a contract with the Australian Army coaching ill and injured soldiers. I've coached in the leadership coaching space and still do, small business leaders in the non-for-profit sector, and some corporates. And I've been doing that for about 10 years since I trained. As Dave said, he was one of my first clients when, after I commenced training, after I started to work in the coaching space. But for the last 7 years, I've also operated in the coach training space because I love the coaching space so much. I really value the opportunity to pay it forward to others. So as my coaching hours increase, I look for more training myself, increase my training hours, and for the last 7 years have operated as Director of Training for Neuro Coaching Australia, who's sponsoring us tonight. And for the last 3 years, so yeah, 2.5 years, I've also served as a sessional educator with the Australian College of Applied Psychology, teaching their coaching practice and supervision subject. That's what Dominic was referring to before. So I love the coaching space, and I love the coach training space. I really love those. And what I love since I've been, well, what else can I tell you about me? I'm happily married with 2 young adult children. I'm a self-confessed chocoholic, and I have an undiluted intolerance for bad coffee. That's something you won't find on my CV, but it is very important. Joking. No, I'm not joking. Actually, I'm very serious about that. So in the time that I've served with Neuro Coaching Australia, I've had the privilege of meeting people who've come into the coaching space from many and varied backgrounds. People come who've maybe had a career. Hi, Sean. He's still joining us. I'll just wait till Sean joins in. Hi, Sean. Hi, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing? Apologies for being late.
That's not a problem at all. I'm just talking about myself, so you haven't missed much at all. So since I joined the coaching space, the coach training space, I have met people who've come to train as coaches from many and varied backgrounds. People who've come from the government sector background, from corporate backgrounds. We've had people come from the medical background, nurses, social workers, psychologists, people who've come from government and management and accounting backgrounds. People who've come from, like myself, a church. I've come from a number of backgrounds. I began my career in the government accounting space, many decades in the church pastoral space, and it's still part of what I do. I've had pastors, chaplains, so people from many and varied backgrounds have come to train as coaches, and I absolutely believe more than ever in this incredible, astonishing, amazing season that we're in at the moment that is catastrophic in so many dimensions, but it will end. The COVID-19 era is a defining moment in the history of this planet. There's no doubt about that, but it will end. It will come to an end, and post that, there will be a whole group of people who will be desperately looking for a sense of purpose again, to recalibrate, to refocus where they're going in their professional life, where they're going in their personal life. And I really believe that the coaching space is such a powerful space to help people move forward. More and more people are be training as coaches. Coaching is one of the fastest growing industries in the world. Do you know there's only one industry that is faster growing than coaching, and that's IT. Coaching at the moment is the second fastest growing industry. Why is that? The simple answer is because it works. That's the simple answer. The reason it's growing is because it's effective. But let's just look at that in a little bit more detail. Why is it effective? What I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen with you. So what I would suggest, I'll just check. Can everybody see my screen there at the moment? Fantastic. Okay, so you might want to change your view to speaker view if you like, or for the part of the presentation, either you might want to change to speaker view or turn your videos off for this time, whatever is easier for you, until we get to the part at the end for questions and interaction, and then we'll be able to open up again. What I want to do is, in our session today, and it's great to hear some of the reasons you're all keen to join in, and obviously we have several hundred hours of training in NeuroCoach in Australia, so obviously in the space of an hour, not going to be able to go too deep, but what I really do hope to convey is just some of my passion for this and why I'm so passionate about coaching. What I hope we can do in our session today is just look at these questions. Firstly, what is coaching? Because we hear it, what exactly does it mean? Why is it effective? Why is it a growing industry? What are qualities of great coaching? And if I did decide to look for coaching training, what should I look for in coaching training? That's sort of really where I plan to go. I will at the end share a little bit about the focus of some up and coming training we've got in NeuroCoach in Australia, but I'm going to keep a close eye on time because importantly, I really do want to allow time for questions and interaction at the end. So what I will do is, for the benefit of those who will be listening to the recording of this, hold your questions to the end. I will go through as if it was a larger group and just talk to this, but please hold your questions because I do want to have that time where we can interact in the end. Okay, so let's start with, well, what is coaching? Coaching is an industry, and really when we hear the term life coaching, it really is an umbrella term. Coaching, like many other professions, has a whole lot of niches, and life coaching is an umbrella term that can talk about a number of niches. There's personal development coaching, there's wellness coaching, there's executive coaching, leadership coaching, business coaching, relationship coaching, and a whole lot of other specialties. I've had the privilege of working in the trauma coaching space, a relatively new area. More areas and specialties are happening in the coaching space. An interesting, a growing area is ADHD coaching. That was something that was the exclusive confines of the medical profession in the past. Now we're seeing the value of coaching there. So there are many, many areas. Now, as an industry, it's been the last 30, 40 years that's been developing. Before that, when we thought of coaching, we really only thought of sports coaching, didn't we? That's when we thought of coaching. That's what really come to mind. So when we're talking about coaching in this sense of personal coaching, what does that exactly mean? What I'm going to do is give the International Coach Federation definition of coaching. Not only because I'm a proud member and hold an ICF credential, but because I love this definition. The ICF, which is the largest global credentialing coaching body in the world, says this: coaching is partnering with people in a creative and thought-provoking process that inspires people to maximize their personal and professional potential. There are a number of key words there. Partnering is a key word. Coaching is a partnership between the coach and the client. It's not as if the coach sets himself or herself up as an expert, but it's a conversation. It's a partnering together. The metaphor or analogy I use when I'm meeting with new clients, I say, now, in our coaching relationship, you're in the driver's seat, not me. I, as your coach, am in the passenger seat. And we'll have a conversation along the journey. There are times where we might have a conversation about the terrain on the way. There are times where we might discuss the instrumentation on the dashboard. There are times where in the journey we may come to a fork in the road and we'll have a conversation about which way you would like to go, but you're behind the wheel. You're in the driver's seat. And my role as a coach is to partner with you to get the outcomes you want, not to tell you what to do, not to tell you how to run your life, not to give you, because you are the expert in your life, not me. Yes, as a coach, I bring expertise in a number of areas of psychology and neuroscience and a whole lot of other areas, but you are the expert in your life, and I'm here to partner with you. And that's why that next phrase, inspires them to maximize their personal potential and professional potential, is important. Inspires them to maximize. The great thing about the coaching space is not just me as an external person sharing my knowledge, but helping people realize what is within them, finding the answers in them, the awareness within themselves, of what they need to move forward to achieve what they want to achieve. And that happens in the personal space and the professional space. And the two are inextricably bound together. I've coached hundreds of people over the time where I've coached, and even though many will come seeking coaching because they are stuck in their professional life, they might be having issues at work or issues with a manager, or maybe have got a performance appraisal which hasn't been that great. Maybe they have come, in terms of issues with relationships with other people they work with. But invariably, while they wanting to grow professionally, invariably there are also underlying personal issues. Some come because they do want personal growth. Coaching works in the both space. So in partnering with people to inspire them to maximize their personal and professional potential. And that's where coaching is fundamentally different to other important professions. Coaching is not counseling. Counseling is very important for people for whom counseling is very important for, but coaching is not counseling. Counseling tends to, by the necessity, look at the past and move into the past to find the root cause of hurts and struggles and traumas and that, and spends a lot of time in the past in order to bring about a facilitated conversation of healing of the past. Coaching starts with the present and moves to the future, where I am now, where I'd like to be. But sometimes, and getting clear, sometimes the coaching conversation is about getting clear where I'd like to be, what are the outcomes, what are the goals, what am I wanting in life. But then sometimes there's a gap between where I am and where I'd like to be, and that gap can be overwhelming. So the coaching space is about breaking it down. What are the steps forward? What are the obstacles in the way? What is in the way of getting to where I want to go? Now, some of those, how do I recognize those obstacles? How do I address those obstacles or barriers to keep me moving forward? Some of those obstacles, perhaps a lot of those obstacles, have their roots in the past. So we may need to look at that and visit the past in order to see what's going on, what's the underlying cause, and how I address that and move forward. But generally, coaching is a forward-moving space. We don't harbour or stay in the story of the past. We move forward. And then coaching is fundamentally different from consulting or training. Of course, training is important. Consultants play an important role, but when you hire a consultant in the business, or that you're hiring an expert to give you professional advice on a particular area. As I said before, in coaching, We believe that you are the expert, the client is the expert in their lives, and we are there to help find the gold within you as a client, help discover that, to help discover the resources within you that may be hidden under layers of unresolved stuff or lack of confidence, a whole range of issues that we can't see. The client is, you are the expert in your life, we say. Our job as a coach is to help you discover the gold within you. Yes, of course, in doing so as coaches, we share observations, we share resources, we share our knowledge. But that is not for the purpose of telling the client what to do, but to reinforce and help them move towards the outcomes that they want. Coaching is therefore also different from mentoring. Mentoring is like consulting, but with more of a relational bent to it. And mentors are powerful. I love the mentoring space, and sometimes I operate in that space when I'm not in the coaching space. But again, for a mentor, you're looking for someone who may be older, wiser, more experienced, or have more expertise to help you in a particular area. And that's an important space to be. But it's different from coaching, because as I've said many times in coaching, the role as a coach is to help you gain awareness of where you want to be, how you want to move forward, what resources you need to do that. So that's just in a nutshell what coaching is. So there are similarities to sports coaching, because a sports coach is really, of course they share their expertise and experience, but a really great coach, no matter what code of sport, is really one that draws out the potential, helps those who their coachees get in the right headspace and heart space, and to be able to maximize the skill they have. So it's certainly those similarities are there. So why is coaching such a growing industry? And what I want to share is just, again, there are many and varied answers to this, but coaching really values the human connection. It really values the human connection. People who seek out a coach, often they're struggling or challenged or feel they're blocked in certain areas, and they're not just wanting to find an answer on Google. They're wanting someone outside their current environment. They're wanting someone in a space that is outside maybe their sphere of relationships, of work relationships or home relationships, who will listen, to engage in a conversation which is deeply open and authentic. And in this era where so many people have felt displaced by technology, that's been happening for such a long time now, so many who have experienced that really value the human connection. And that's another reason why coaching is so popular, is because with the technological revolution, many people have found themselves redundant, have found themselves displaced, and it's been an opportunity to rediscover their purpose. What is really my purpose in life? It's interesting, isn't it? We can just go along on a certain track, and unless that track is disrupted, or unless there's a sort of barrier in the road, we just keep going. But when we have the road ripped out from under us, people begin to think, what do I really want to do? What is a real purpose that captivates me? And one of the things that I have experienced such joy in doing in my role as a coach is help people, partner with people to get clear on their purpose. I'll just share a story of the power of us. This is one of the areas I'm passionate about, getting clear on one's purpose in life. I'll share a story a few years ago when I was operating in the Army coaching space. So I coached a young corporal once, and he was, and this is his story. Ever since he was a little boy, he'd wanted to be in the Army and be a soldier in combat. He wanted to be in he really wanted to serve on the front line. I guess a lot of little boys have that and a lot lose it. But for him, this guy grew stronger and stronger as he grew older. And so he enlisted straight out of school and did so well in training, was promoted very quickly. He was a corporal by his early 20s. But all he wanted to do was fight on the front line. He narrowly missed deployment several times just because the timing of the particular unit he was posted to coming online to a deployment. And then he injured himself in training. He injured his back in training. And was told, you can't remain in the infantry. You'll either need to transfer to another area of army, excuse me, or discharge. And this guy was referred to me for coaching, not because he was officially diagnosed with depression, but this was a highly intelligent, highly motivated junior NCO. People were saying, you'll be a warrant officer one day. You could even transfer and become an officer. He was highly motivated, highly intelligent, but he was so devastated to be told that he could no longer do what he would decide to do for so long that he just lost his mojo. He was just so deflated. He lost motivation. He was stuck. And as I listened to him, and I said to him, we'll call him Peter, not his real name, Peter, it sounds like as I listen to you, you really sense your purpose is to be, your whole purpose in life is to be a soldier in combat. What if that was actually a role that enabled you to fulfill your purpose? And when you had awareness of what that higher purpose was, that you might find a way forward. You're feeling stuck at the moment because you feel there's nowhere to go. You can't do what you always wanted to do. What if you're aware of that higher purpose and you realize you had other options? And he said, I have no idea what that is. How do I find that out? And I got into the coaching space, and one of the things you'll hear me say soon is one thing coaches do is ask a lot of questions. I said, tell me what's the reason you've always wanted to be a soldier in combat? And first I heard what I often hear, well, just to serve the mateship thing, serve with mates. And I said, great, but for what purpose do you want to serve with mates? Then I heard what I often hear, to serve my country. And it wasn't just just rhetoric. Really, he was the real deal. He was very serious about that. For what purpose do you want to serve your country? And he would say something, and I was saying, what's the reason behind that? Or when you do that, what does that give you? And everything he said, I just kept asking another question. For what reason do you want to do that? Or what's the why behind that? Or what will that give you? And of course, after a while, there were longer pauses, but I kept asking. Every time he said something, I'd ask, what's the reason behind that? And of course, we eventually got to the point where he got stuck. And he says, I don't know. And I asked this really cheeky question, what if you did know? What do you mean, what if I did know? And I found another way to ask it. He'd say something else. And after a while, he said, oh, Mark, you are messing with my brain. He actually didn't say messing. He used another word. This is deep as we're talking about. Remember, I'm modifying this for here. Anyway, but we kept going. And eventually, he said, there's something within me that wants to defend the innocent and hold the guilty to account. And as soon as he said that, he sort of, did that just come out of my mouth? And I said, yeah, mate, it did. I said, guess what? That's always been within you. And through me messing with your brain, as you so eloquently put it, you've just managed to put conscious articulation to what's been there. That's always been in you. As soon as he said it, it all made sense. Defend the innocent, hold the guilty to account. That's really the reason why he wanted to be on the front line. That was his why. He absolutely deplored the evil and oppression that was happening, and he felt that he wanted to do something to really serve that, to play a part in that. And it all made sense. Defend the innocent, hold the guilty to account. At school, he was always the one that stuck up for those that had been bullied and hoard injustice. Now it made sense. He had some awareness of a higher purpose. Once he had that, He realised he had other options, and we began into coaching, looking at what those other options might be. He looked at staying in the army, transferring to military police. That didn't quite sit. Transferring to army intelligence. That could work. That's a way he could still serve. Then his guts were saying, look outside. He began to look into police force, Australian Federal Police, the Queensland Police Force, and that began to sit more. But what about my injury? He did some intel, and while the nature of his injury was a problem for the inventory, it wasn't a problem. It would not necessarily mean that he would fail a medical for the police force. So he began to pursue that. Now, our coaching series ended, but sometime later I had the privilege of coaching one of his mates from the same unit he was in, and I found out that he successfully applied for the Queensland Police Force, discharged. They told me he was dreaming, he wanted to be a detective one day, studied criminology. Anyway, can you see, once he was aware of that purpose, he realised that he had other options, the power of purpose. And now he's my poster boy. It doesn't actually, in one coaching session, people get full revelation of their purpose. That takes often some time. I define my purpose as enabling people to unleash their life and leadership potential. And that purpose drives me in all the spaces I operate in the coaching space, in the pastoral space, in other spaces. Getting clear on that is so powerful. And not only purpose, alignment with values. We will not be happy if we're not living congruently with our values. We all have them, but if you ask the average person, what are your 5 top personal values? They may not be able to articulate that. In the coaching space, we help people get awareness of what their underlying values are. Is what I'm doing in life aligning with my purpose and values? The more they do, the more happier and fulfilled people will be. That's why coaching is so powerful. In the midst of all that's been eroding, it's helping people get a sense of purpose. When people have that, they are more effective in their workplace. That's why big corporations hire coaches, executive coaches, because they know that people are more aligned, are happy and fulfilled. And when people are more happier and fulfilled with their sense of purpose, they're more productive for the organization. We're happier in our work. We're happier in our home life. Coaching is also powerful because it recognizes people's greatness. When people come into the coaching space to seek a coach, it's often because negative stuff has happened. At work, they might have, as I said before, have a negative performance report. They've lost their confidence. They've been told all the things they're doing wrong. And that there tends to be that predisposition to that. What's going wrong? The coaching space recognizes people's greatness. In the coaching space, when coaching's working as it should, it helps people see what are the positive resources I have within me, who I am, that can, and when I recognize those and apply those and grow in those, they can actually help me move forward to where I want to be. Coaching recognizes the greatness that is there within people. I believe all people do really, when they're fully aligned, every single person has a desire to give to something greater themselves. Even people you meet, you might think you are one of the most self-centered persons I've ever met. That's only because of unresolved junk in their lives. Deep down, there is their true self. There is this gold waiting to be mined. Coaching helps discover that gold and how that gold can be released and focused to make a positive difference and pay it forward. As I've said before, I've already said this, coaching regards people as experts in their own lives. And that's another reason why it's such a valuable space. It's not a professional or expert telling them what they should do with their lives, but regarded as the expert. And coaches are there to help people, as I said, mine that, realize that goal that's there, discover it and move forward. Coaching creates awareness of the underlying source of problems and the tools to address them. One of the things we say in the coaching space is the issue is never the issue. So when everyone comes for, coaching and talks about issues they're having with their boss, or issues, relationships they're having with someone else, or how they're feeling, why they're feeling anxious and stressed and that, what's the underlying issue? If we just sort of talk about the problem, some people think coaching is just about goal setting, and of course we do. As part of coaching, we do help people set really compelling, realistic goals, but it's far more than that. If we just deal with what is on the surface, we're going to get a surface outcome. Coaching, when it's operating as it should, is transformational. We look and help through the coaching skill set of listening, questioning, observing, exploring, find what is the underlying problem, and then what tools do you need to address this to move forward into the outcome that you want. And so coaching is focused on really change and really moving forward. So with that in mind, what are qualities of successful coaching? Now, you may expect me to say, well, it's really understanding the key tools for coaching, understanding the coaching framework, understanding how to structure a coaching session, having some background tools in psychology and neuroscience and sociology and business development, of all of that. And absolutely, it is all of those things. It's coaches who are developing ongoing professional development to gain new tools. Yes, it is. It's all of those things. But guess what? It is my absolute conviction that you can have all of those things. You can have great training, great tools, know those tools, have a great number of various coaching models to use, and it's still not be successful coaching. Successful coaching does need all of those, but these are what I consider the absolute non-negotiables of successful coaching. A successful coaching or a successful coach has the capacity to be fully present with his or her client. To be fully present. That means not thinking about other things, not distracting by other things, but fully focused on the client. Not thinking about, oh, what I can tell him and her to do, or, yeah, this is great, I've got something to absolutely that I can share that will help. But suspending all of that and be fully present on the client. Having a curiosity to learn more about the client, exploring more. The capacity to really just sit and allow time to reflect. The absolutely being in tune with the client's energy and noticing shifts in that. It's actually being comfortable with not knowing. To absolutely just trust the coaching process. As I said before, not be thinking ahead of what to say or what to do or what tool can I use, but absolutely being present. And the reason that's important is because without our capacity to be fully present, we won't have the capacity to fully listen. Now that may seem obvious, but successful coaching is not just listening to words. It develops, a successful coach develops the capacity to listen on multiple levels, to be able to hear what is said and what is not said, to notice changes in intensity of voice, notice drops in energy in speaking, to be able to notice subtle shifts in the body language. All of those can be keys to what's happening underneath. There have been so many times where I've been listening to someone, I've said, notice your energy dropped when you said that. What's happening for you now? What is happening? And they've got to think and articulate what is happening. And often when they begin to talk about what's happening, It brings a great awareness. They're talking about, where is this coming from? That link to that change in energy, they're aware of what's going on underneath the surface, and that could be a clue to what's underneath. We will not pick up all that if we're not fully present. The moment we start thinking ahead of what to say or what to do or the next question to ask, our listening has been compromised. So that's why this capacity to be present, because we can't be present with our clients if we're not present with ourselves. This has been, when I started training, this was one of the struggles for me, because the way I'm wired, I live in my head a lot. There's always stuff going on in my head, and the biggest challenge for me is to be able to stop and just be present, to stop that and just enjoy. I know mindfulness is one of the flavour of the month things and has been for many years now. But being mindful simply means being present in the moment. The more that we do that, the more we'll be able to listen. And the more we listen, the more we'll be able to ask powerful, evocative questions that take the client beyond the boundary of their conscious thinking to what's going on in that non-conscious part of their mind. Because that's where the real goal is. What's going on that they don't see, don't understand. Questions, to ask questions and make observations that create that deeper awareness. And that's one of the key skills, is the capacity to ask clear, simple, but deep, evocative questions that really take the client beyond the boundary of what they currently are aware of consciously. That deeper awareness, and that's not happening. All of those things I talked about, the non-verbals, what's said, what's not said, the body language, the generalizations, all make a difference. So for example, when I'm listening, if I hear a client say, this always happens to me, the first thing I'll say is, always? Yeah, it always. Okay, so this always happens to you throughout your life, always, every single time. Oh, well, wait, so, hey, okay, maybe not all the time, but a lot of time. Okay, so a lot. So this doesn't happen every time. What happens in the times where it doesn't happen? You see there how that can create, okay, now we're throwing doubt on that generalization. How often we say, nothing goes right for me. Everything is going wrong. Everything, nothing goes wrong. Nothing in your entire life has ever gone wrong. You know? Getting there and listening and hearing those and challenging those generalizations and helping people see how they've convinced themselves, they've created this self-talk and this belief that is not serving them. What we want to do is help people get beyond the surface and realize unresourceful thinking, negative limiting beliefs, mindsets that are faulty. Help them to recognize that. And that's what we now know about our mind. We're not limited by that. We can create a new beliefs, mindsets, self-talk that's going to serve us for where we want to go. And therefore our behavior will align to that. We will not act in a way that's inconsistent with what we believe. If we want to act differently, we want to have different outcomes, we've got to go deeper. Coaching explores that. And of course, successful coaching has the capacity to ground that new awareness in action. How do we apply it? If it's just a talk fest, then that's not going to get anywhere. So what might you do to anchor this new understanding? What might you do to reinforce this new understanding? What can you do to really take this to the next step? That's a part of coaching. So a capacity to be present, a capacity to listen, a capacity to ask powerful, evocative questions and make intuitive observations that create deeper awareness, a capacity to ground new awareness in action. For me, there is, in addition to this, and this is a Mark quote, one indispensable quality of coaching, and that is this. Coaching is most powerful when it's offered out of the overflow of our own personal growth and transformation. There is no substitute for that. If you see these, I learned to coach in a weekend, a quick weekend class, it's nonsense. I'm sorry, it is No, I'm not sorry. I'm unapologetic. It's absolute nonsense. You cannot learn to coach in a weekend. And if it's just about theory, then it's not going to get there. I often get inquiries from Eurocoach in Australia. What's the quickest way I can get through this? And I often say, I'm not really sure our training is for you if it's just about getting a whole lot of knowledge. And in any good quality coaching training, there will be a lot of practical time where you are with other students being coached yourself, where you bring real scenarios yourself and experience coaching and growth yourself, so that the coaching we offer others is not just theory. It flows out of our own growth and transformation, and that's ongoing. As I said, I've got over 3,500 coaching hours now. I've reached a few years ago the Master Certified Coach credential with the ICF, but I don't, for a reason, think I've made it. I still get coaching myself. I do peer coaching with other colleagues and that. So someone can really put ask me the deep questions that I'm now asking myself. Coaching needs to flow out of our own growth and transformation. As you can tell, I'm really passionate about that. So if we were, now I appreciate that some people here are curious and want to come along, but again, for the benefit of for everyone here, if you were interested in training as a coach, and Dave's about to do that, and he'll sign up, and what to look for. But if you are exploring coaching, what to look for in coaching. First of all, coaching that is accredited with the International Coach Federation, for me, is a no-brainer. There's lots of coach training out there that's offering, promising the world, over-promising and under-delivering. But if it's not accredited, if you don't see any one of these logos on the training program you're looking at, with respect, I'd say forget about it, and this is why. Coaching is not a regulated industry. You can't call yourself a psychologist if you're not. You can't call yourself a psychiatrist if you're not. Unfortunately, because coaching is not regulated, everyone can call themselves a coach. And there are people out there, there are thousands of coaches in Australia alone on LinkedIn, some of whom have very little training, but are very good at marketing themselves, but they're not delivering. If you are training with a program that is accredited with the International Coach Federation, you will know the bar is high. I now know that in the Australian government and in many corporations, they will not even look at a coach unless they hold an ICF credential. So ensure your training is ICF credential. I won't explain the difference between the ACTP and ACSDH here. You can ask me that another time or email me, but for the interest of time, we won't do that now. Coaching that includes theory and practice. Now, if it's ICF accredited, it's a no-brainer. There's no way in the world it will get ICF accredited if it doesn't include the practice, the theory, and the practice. What, as I said, in coaching that is reputable, coach training that is reputable, there were plenty of opportunity, as well as theory, that to break up into triads where one's a client, one's a coach, and one's a mentor, an observer, and swapping around, and with experienced mentor coaches coming on to giving feedback as well. And when I say practice coaching, we are not role playing. Not allowed. You have to bring real issues that you're willing to be coached on yourself. Coaching includes theory and practice. Coaching that values coaching as science and art. What do I mean by that? That the content is evidence-based and that is reputable in terms that it includes the latest research, psychology, neuroscience, and all the stuff, the coaching theory and practice. All of that, yes, but it values the art of coaching as well. I say to students, I'm not the least bit interested in cookie cutter coaches. You bring who you are to coaching. You bring your background, the richness of your background and who you are. And as I mentor you, I don't want you to copy me. I want you to take the feedback I'm giving and apply and ground that in who you are. So it recognises the art of coaching and the rich diversity as well. We always have, when in our coach training program, 2 mentor coaches for each student, because everyone's different. Everyone will give different feedback. So values coaching is science art. Values a community of coaches. And in other words, is there an ongoing community that I can connect with? We offer lifetime to our closed Facebook group at Neuro Coaching Australia, where coaches can come. You know, it's not always active all the time, but there's a place to come and connect and chew the fat and share resources. And number of our coaches have come back and helped serve in other training just because they value the community so much. So there's some of the things that I say to look for. Obviously, I'm biased towards Neuro Coaching Australia, but what I do want to say is this: not every particular, find the coach trainer that will suit you, because what I will say is if it's ICF, I have friends who teach in colleagues who teach in other ICF accredited coach training. You know that if it's there, the bar will be high. What I'm going to do, just for, and I'm sorry, I hope you can stay a little bit after, just a little bit after 8, because my passion's got away with me, and I do want to allow time for questions at the end. But just very briefly, as I said, now to let you know what we are doing in the Neuro Coaching Australia space. Our first module begins again, the next round begins on 18th of May. Ours is all live online, and it's 18 hours of training over 6 Monday evenings, beginning 18th of May with a break in the middle. It's live and interactive via Zoom, and that's another way you'll know if it's not the interactive component, it won't get ICF accreditation. It doesn't have to be in the room. It can be online, that's often easier, but as long as it's live and interactive, there's the opportunity to interact with the presenter. And the investment of that is $19.95. Then following that, but we always say, that's the heart, that's the skill set, but you're not a coach yet. When you then learn to apply those coaching skills, and that's our next module that commences immediately after that on the 20th of July. It includes fortnightly workshops, plus the breaking up into coaching triads with mental coaching and other assessment along the way. And that's a similar the same investment. We do offer a package if anyone wanted to sign up for both together, a saving of almost $600. And we do have flexible payment plans available. You don't have to pay up front. But if anyone had any questions, that's all I'm going to say on that. That's only the beginning of our training, Neuro Coaching in Practice. We offer, then the next level is practitioner coaching, where you really offers how to package the coaching programs, and we go some more advanced teaching of our amazing brain. Then our more advanced ones, professional neuro coaching, master neuro coaching, that's where we really get into the advanced neuro coaching, neuroscience of coaching, and applying that. We encourage people to have a bit of coaching practice. These 3 can be done straight after each other, but we actually encourage people to have a bit of experience in coaching before the more advanced ones. But you can ask me questions about that afterwards or message me privately. But I hope I've managed to convey in this my absolute conviction that coaching is powerfully transformational. For me, it is more than a part of what I do in terms of a career. This is a vocation for me. It's part of how I express my vocation. The joy of seeing people find clarity, the joy of people finding purpose, the joy of seeing people who were stuck in faulty thinking suddenly moving again towards they want. The joy of seeing people realize the goal within them and seeing that maximized. That's why I believe the coaching space is transformational and powerful. Alrighty, that's me. Now feel free to turn your videos again, and I want to hand it over to you for questions. I did say 8, but I hope you can hang around, given I've gone on a little bit more. But love to hear from you. Any questions you have about anything I've shared, or anything else for that matter, any other questions you have about the coaching that I may not have covered tonight. Over to you. Just remember to take yourself off mute. Does that mean I've fully answered all your questions? Or have I totally overwhelmed you? Could be that as well.
You can almost sense the tumblers going over in our minds, can't you, Mark?
I can. I can, David. I can.
I think from listening to your session, which I very much enjoyed, I came out of it with a series of questions that I'll work on from reviewing your purpose. And I came up with a series of questions that came from it. What drives me? Why am I never satisfied with leaders over me? What do I want from leadership? And then what do I want to contribute to leadership in the way of actually shaping leadership and how it operates within the space? So you've actually loaded me with a series of questions that I think that I'll go away and reflect on. I thought that was really, really great.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing that, Dave, because that is one of the great outcomes of coaching, helping our clients ask different questions or deeper questions or better questions of themselves. So appreciate you sharing that, mate. Anyone else? Yes, Christine.
I think that you've got us all listening, doing one of the qualities of coaching, but I also think that it's given us a good overview of the different parts and can be so overlapping. Like I've done mentoring at the hospital with people who have had struggles in the workplace and also with patients, but this is very different. This is working from a different scope altogether, and I totally respect that you need to listen and have those qualities, but I think you've just really said it well in a nutshell, Mark, that you've given me a lot of a broader aspect to think into with this, you know, that and I also thought of when you were talking about the gentleman in the army, I also reflected on people who've been in mine trauma, you know, with mine explosives and trauma, and, you know, to get back up there and change their way of thinking, to see the value in themselves and what the possibilities are, is just brilliant. It's just such a wide scope in this area. So I've really appreciated listening to what you've said.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate that. And a couple of things in which you said are really important. Not everybody who trains as a coach works in a full-time or part-time coaching practice, but many leaders in business or other professions train with us so that they can have better coaching conversations with members of their team. And often, and so I can think of one large organisation in Brisbane that's employed coaches that to create a coaching culture within that organisation, that all their leaders learning to, with the members of their team, to listen, to ask better questions, to coach the leader as coach. And that can be in just about every discipline possible. And so, yeah, that really came to mind in what you said. And the other thing is that that came to mind when you talked about the mind trauma. It's really interesting that how more and more the value of coaching in those sort of spaces. As I said, for 5 years, I coached ill and injured soldiers, and back when I started in 2014, that was a bold move in the Soldier Recovery Centre to have a coach in there, because they'd only ever had psychiatrists and psychologists in the mental health place to see them. Now, let me say clearly, there's an absolute value for in that. That's undisputed, and coaching's not for everyone. There have been clients that have come, and we've got to a point where I've needed to suggest them we suspend coaching, and they see a therapist for a season, because there's deeper trauma there, and that's not necessarily coaching. It's not necessarily the best space for that. But not everyone needs that. I also, one of my closest friends is a retired counselling psychologist, and she used to say to me, Mark, when she was practicing as a psychologist, she would say, Mark, so many people come to me, they don't need counselling, they need coaching, they need life coaching. And so it works both ways. Not everybody needs that. And it's fascinating. Most of the soldiers that I saw over 300 soldiers over that time that I had that contract. And the vast majority of them had seen at least a psychologist, if not a psychiatrist as well. By the time I got to see them, I heard again and again, this is so good. I am so over talking about my past. I want to dream again. I want to talk about the future again. I want to move forward again. But at the same time, there are people who are stuck in their story as well, and are stuck in the story of the past. Now, coaching's about creating a new story, a story of the present and the future. The people have to want to move, be able to move. And sometimes past trauma is keeping them stuck there, and they need help from professionals to do that. But when unstuck, that's where coaching is gold.
Yeah, I can see the difference. Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Okay. I'm going to put Del on the spot, because Del operates in the relationship coaching space. And Del, do you mind just talking a bit about, because that is such a space, because we hear about marriage counselling all the time, marriage counselling. But do you mind just for a little talking about how the coaching works in the relationship space? You'll need to unmute yourself.
So I've been working with couples, and it really was kind of almost out of accident than design the way I got into it. And I was working with a friend who she was a counsellor and was marriage counselling, and asked me to come on board as a coach, and was working with individuals, but it quickly came mostly to couples, and that was really the area that seemed to be in demand, which really put me on a steep learning curve, but really discovered how vital coaching is in that relationship framework. It's a very tricky framework, because not tricky, it's a brilliant framework, but you've got two individuals at the same time with it, and but it's been incredibly effective to move forward. And as Mark said, it's about moving forward, because most couples I work with, it's nearly all of them are the same story. It's 20 to 25, 30 years married. There's been the rough spots, the disappointments, and the whole journey, and they're all very similar. And the whole blame thing starts coming in, and it's just so effective in not going around that. We're not even talking around the whole family of origin stuff, which counselling really focuses on, but to really give them both a purpose together in moving forward, and that whole higher purpose together. What do you want it to look like? What are your values together? And some of them have no idea even what their values are. So they're on totally different planets. I have no idea. And so go on that journey with them, with, really discovering their purpose, and they start to join together again and re-find what it was about each other right from the beginning. So it's been good. I've had some challenging ones because I've had, well, I have them back this, at the moment, there's two couples, and they're both alongside of that. Within each relationship, each one has long-term chronic illnesses as well, which compounds the relationship. So there's lots of intricacies around them, and like Mark said, a lot of them they've had psychologists for years and years and years, and it actually astounds me what they say the psychologists tell them to do. You know, this is about you, leave your marriage, you know, like just stuff. It's like, what are you even saying here? Like they just, I just don't even understand where they're coming from. So it's been a really great learning curve for me, definitely, and I find it really valuable. So yeah, I've read a lot of books on the whole area too.
Thank you, Del, for sharing there. And you know, the reason I've got Del to share is there's not one area where coaching can't apply. As I said, had people specialise in wellness coaches, leadership coaches, and different areas. Weight loss coaches, a passion for that, and just, you know, some of the slick marketing programs with all the meals and that. They said it doesn't bring long-term stuff, and bringing the coaching space there. There's so many areas where that can apply, and people often come with their particular area of expertise and passion, and how can I apply the coaching space to that? So thanks for sharing that. Sorry, Dave.
I'll jump in and ask a question. Del,
yeah.
What have you found has been perhaps your greatest challenge in entering into the coaching space in the way that you did, and how you found working through that?
I think the greatest challenge is people just think of counselling. They just have the framework of that you're a counsellor, and they want answers. They want you to tell them. That's the tricky thing. But I was fortunate when I got into it with a friend who wanted another modality in her business. So that really gave me a leg up in actually getting into the area. Yeah.
Good question. Thanks, Dave.
That's great. Thank you.
Well, what I'm thinking, Dom just sent me a message to say he had to leave, and I'm just conscious of the time. I did say we would finish at 8 o'clock, but I'll just check. Does anyone have any last questions before I'll leave it there? Okay. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I will send you all the link to this recording if there's anything you want to look back on or everything like that. What I will say is also this: if you have any other questions about anything I've shared about coaching, about coach training, about NeuroCoach in Australia, please do not hesitate to email me on that email address that you got the link to. More than happy to talk further. But what I do want to say is thanks for attending tonight. Thanks for giving up one of your Wednesday evenings to share here. Appreciated you being here. Appreciated your questions and your interaction. And yeah, hey, take care. Stay safe, everyone, and look forward to staying in touch.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
For now. See you. Bye.